The valiant Christians of Kandhamal, with their incredible and heroic witness, have provided the catacomb experience to Indian Christians at the dawn of the third millennium. Kandhamal went up in flames following the 2008 Janmashtami night murder of Swami Lakshmanananda Saraswati. Dubbing the murder as Christian conspiracy, Christians were given deadlines to forsake their faith. When threatened with death to forsake their faith, thousands of poor and illiterate Christians fled to jungles to escape the humiliation of being forced to recant their faith. Weeks of unabated violence left 100 martyrs. Over 300 churches desecrated. 6,000 Christian houses plundered and torched, rendering 56,000 homeless. The martyrdom of dear and near ones did not scare them, nor the desecrated churches and plundered houses disheartened them. Undaunted by the suffering, thousands of homeless Christians preferred to starve and languish in jungles and slums than forsaking their faith for a comfortable living in native villages. They forsook everything for their faith, fulfilling the harsh conditions that Jesus has prescribed for discipleship in Matthew chapter 16, verse 24. If any of you want to come with me, you must forget yourself, carry your cross, and follow me. Amid remnants of charred churches, skeletons of burnt vehicles, and plundered houses, Christian faith stood shining in Kandhamal. From distraught widows to farmers, those in government jobs to illiterate laborers, all upheld their faith aloft in hostile conditions. Journalist Anto Akkara, who has chronicled the amazing witness of Christians in remote region, presents rock-like witness of Kandhamal, gathered from 31 arduous trips over 14 years, illustrating how the poor Christians of Kandhamal produced finest Christian witness in 2000 years of Christianity in India. In any organized violence, women suffer the most and undergo the worst pain. Their husbands were killed before their eyes. Their houses were looted and burnt down, and they were threatened with death to renounce their faith. Despite being homeless and vulnerable, the widows of Kandhamal displayed amazing courage and resilience to carry on the onerous task of looking after the children, remaining as solid as rock in their faith. Kanak Rekha Nayak keeps her husband's faith alive. Parikit Nayak was returning on a bicycle with his wife Kanak Rekha and 2 children on the 27th of August when the family came in the path of a group that had destroyed the church at Manikeshwar village. The mob caught Parikit and took him to the nearby temple to reconvert him and asked,
"Are you ready to become a Hindu?" "Why should I become a Hindu? I'm a Christian. I have that freedom in this country."
He argued. Furious over his reply, they beat him.
"I will never become a Hindu. There is no question of going back on my faith,"
asserted Parikit, who had embraced the Christian faith 11 years earlier. They hit him with a cycle chain and he fell down. They tied the chain around his neck and dragged him. Kanak Rekha continued to follow them, carrying 1-year-old daughter and holding the hand of a wailing elder daughter, Lipsarani. After dragging Parikit for some distance, They beat him to death. They hacked his body into pieces and tried to burn them. But since the fire did not spread, they covered the body pieces with soil before leaving.
I cannot think of giving up my faith. My husband sacrificed his life for the faith in Jesus. Whatever may happen, I will never give up my faith.
Kanagarega told me in January 2009 when I met her first at the Udaigiri refugee camp. Kanagarega had to flee Kandhamal in July 2010 and shift to Bhubaneswar due to the frequent threats after she and her 6-year-old daughter gave irrefutable witness in the court, leading to the conviction of Manoj Pradhan, the main accused in the murder of her husband and 6 other Christians. Shockingly, Manoj had been elected to the Odisha Assembly while behind bars, leaving a blot on the democratic system of India. Kanagarega's unflinching faith was manifest when she narrated with the tears the ordeal she had undergone for being a Christian at the National People's Tribunal on Kandhamal in New Delhi on August 23, 2010. Look at this combined pic. Her timidity and fears had disappeared by the second anniversary when she boldly joined a street protest in New Delhi, demanding justice for Kandhamal. The courage and determination in her face showed that persecution had only strengthened her faith.
My husband died for his faith before me. I will remain Christian as long as I am alive.
प्रभुଙ୍କ दास दासी माने एहीपरि सेमाने विश्वास रे ए जगत रे बंचितिबा जाय सेमाने मध्य एंती विश्वास रे रहंतु मोर स्वामी आजी ता जीसु को छाडला नै
Repeated the widow in her testimony in a TV interview in March 2022.
मोर जीवन समर्पण कली बोली से कहिले एते से प्रभुଙ୍କ पई से आजी मरि छंती मो मध्य आजी प्रभुଙ୍କ पई बंची की जगत रे अछि आमे मध्य
Widow resists family pressure. During the widespread anti-Christian violence, Pushpanjali Ponda was worried when she heard of fundamentalists' plan to attack her pastor husband Divya Sundar Digal, who was away in Drapangia village. Arsonists reached Pushpanjali's house the next evening and asked for her husband. That was only to confirm that Pastor Divya had not returned home, as they had already gathered information about the village he was camping. Since there was no response from his mobile phone from the night, Pushpanjali decided to walk to the village early morning with her 8-year-old daughter.
When I reached the village, my worst fears came true. My husband's body was lying on the road, soaked in blood with stab wounds. With the help of the Hindus, I brought the body on 2 bicycles to our village, with my daughter sobbing behind. My troubles did not end there. The leader of the group that killed my husband threatened to kill me too if I filed murder case or accepted government compensation.
Recounted Pushpanjali when I met her 3 weeks later in Bhubaneswar. As her tormentors continued to intimidate her, even in the refugee camp at Raikya, Pushpanjali and her daughter fled to Bhubaneswar, taking refuge at the YMCA compound with over 400 Kandhamal refugees. It was at this YMCA camp I met Pushpanjali first, when she shared with me the shocking response of her own family.
They are trying to persuade me to return to Hinduism. Your life as a Christian widow will be a very difficult one, they told me. And relatives are assuring me all the support if I return to the Hindu fold. But I will not go back. I will remain and die a Christian.
Said the widow who hailed from an upper caste Brahmin family and became a Christian after falling in love with the pastor.
When I met Pushpanjali 2 years later, she proudly narrated how she had ignored the double pressure from the fundamentalists and her own relatives and was moving on with life. To strengthen her daughter in Christian faith, the widow put her daughter in a Christian school.
Shining faith in Kandhamal.
My initial chronicle on the incredible Christian witness of Kandhamal, titled Shining Faith in Kandhamal, was released at the Mission Congress of the Catholic Church.
Kandhamal in the hearts of all of us. We pay tribute to all of them. We pay tribute to Archbishop Chinnath, the leader. We pay tribute in a particular way to those who have lost their lives and those who have given testimony under great hardships to the Christian faith. I want to also pay tribute to our author Anto Akkara. At risk to his own life, he has gone and collected instances of heroic witness to the Catholic faith by different people in Kandhamal. I'm requesting the President of CBCI, our own Cardinal Varki, to please release this book. Thank you.
You are saying they have strong faith? But I feel many of them will go back when they suffer like this.
A church leader told me, "No, I can assure you they will not go back." I told the church leader, emphasizing that no one could assess the depth of Kandhamal's amazing witness without visiting the ground zero of worst persecution in Indian history.
The sight of shelters like these, built of leaves in forlorn jungle paths of Badawanga, reminded of lives in primitive times. Unwilling to forsake their faith, Christians sent out from the refugee camps were prepared to suffer any hardship to uphold their faith. The failure of national Christian networks to rush support for the struggling Christians due to the hostile atmosphere in Kandhamal did not dampen the faith of the penniless Christians. In fact, they seemed to be growing in faith instead of turning despondent when abject poverty haunted them. Manega Naik of Nandagiri. After the initial violence, a clear pattern had emerged. Christians fled to jungles to escape reconversion, and their houses were plundered. Weeks later, government set up 24 relief camps to shelter homeless Christians. Ahead of the April 2009 elections, government shut down the camps to show semblance of normalcy and dumped the Christian families in their villages. But the fundamentalists insisted on Christians to forsake their faith as precondition to set foot in their villages, forcing them to seek shelter elsewhere. This has been graphically documented in Akkara's first investigative book, Kandhamal, a blot on Indian secularism. Unable to return to their village, a dozen homeless Christian families of Ruthingia set up shelter in an open area near the dingy vegetable market in Udaigiri town in March 2009.
Months later, the government officials ordered us to move out of the dirty vegetable market as our presence there was embarrassing to them. They brought us here.
Manega Naik told me in December 2009, standing near the ragtag tent at the new Christian settlement at Nandagiri forest area, where dozens of Christian families from other villages had been transplanted. Why should you suffer like this with nobody coming forward to help you? Why don't you go back to your village and live as Hindus? I asked Manega.
If we were looking for comfort, we would have become Hindus instantly when we were threatened. Nothing can force us to give up our faith. We will starve and suffer for our faith, but we will not give it up.
Retorted the resolute mother of 2 children aged 5 and 2 years. Adversity inspires, not dithers. Pastor rebuilds house with cross. The rock-like faith of Kandhamal Christians seemed to be written in iron at the entrance of the house of Pastor Prabodh Kumar Nayak in Raikola village.
Look at this pic. A new cross at the center of the old metal door of the house that he was rebuilding in late 2009. I asked Pastor Prabodh how he could be so bold to assert his Christian identity.
I will never hide my faith. I am a Christian. I was born here. I will die here as a Christian.
Replied the pastor who had fled to the jungle with his folks to escape the reconversion and later moved with them to the refugee camp. Pastor Prabodh also recounted how the forgiving attitude of the hounded Christians to their tormentors, as mandated by Jesus from the cross, had touched the hearts of many Hindus.
Those who have helped in the reconstruction of my house included my Hindu neighbors who were in the mob that had destroyed and looted my house. Now they regret it. Some of them have even apologized to me.
Teacher risks government job to uphold faith. Nagarjun Pradhan, mathematics teacher of government high school in Baliguda, was admired by local Hindus as he used to give tuition to dozens of students in his spare time. Nagarjun's popularity among the Hindus saved him during the widespread anti-Christian violence. However, fundamentalists wanted to ensure that being a Christian, Nagarjun would no longer teach the Hindu students. Since Nagarjun was living with his mother, wife and 2-month-old daughter in a Hindu house on rent, they threatened the landlord and ordered him to throw out his Christian tenant, or else they would torch it. The Hindu landlord promptly evicted Nagarjun. Meanwhile, Nagarjun's house in Ratingia village, 70 kilometers from Baliguda, had been looted and destroyed. Incurring a loss of over $1 million to the rich family. After moving to the refugee camp with his family, Nagarjun felt unsafe and uncomfortable in the dingy camp in Baliguda. He shifted his family to Bhubaneswar, taking a house on rent in a middle-class area.
After 7 months in the expensive rented house, Nagarjun decided to shift to the Saliasahi slum, where thousands of Kandhamal Christians had flocked in. He purchased an open plot in the slum and built a house where I met him first in July 2009.
I visited both my native village and Baliguda a couple of times. There was no change in their attitude. They told me that I could return to teach in the school only if I become a Hindu. I'm not ready to forsake my faith for my government job. So I sent letters to Education Department asking for leave from the school until the situation improved. Why should we risk our faith and get humiliated? We do not want to live in this slum, but more than our faith is important to us. That is why we are here.
Nagarjun replied when I asked him about his plan to resume his teaching job in Kandhamal a year after he was forced out of it. When I visited Nagarjun again in Saliasahi slum in April 2011, he was very excited.
I am happy that God has secured my job.
After Education Department threatened to dismiss him from service, Nagarjun made several trips to government offices. When the officials did not relent, he prayed earnestly. Finally, meeting with the State Education Department Secretary was fruitful. and gave the green signal for him to resume his job.
God has guarded me. Life in the slum was very difficult. I am happy I have been able to keep my faith and my job too. It's a big blessing.
Said excited Nagarjun. Nagarjun had turned the adversity into an opportunity during the slum stay, taking up the job of headmaster of the Rainbow School that had been opened by a Christian social worker to provide free education for 120 children of Kandhamal victims and other slum dwellers. The rock-like faith of Kandhamal was exemplified by the record Mission Sunday collection in October 2009 in Raikia Parish, when 600 of the 750 families under the parish had been homeless, with their houses looted and destroyed.
I could not believe when Father Manoranjan Singh, assistant vicar of Raikia Parish, told me that Mission Sunday collection had doubled to rupees 120,000 compared to previous high. Explaining how the penniless refugees achieved this record Mission Sunday collection, the priest said,
They made this generous donation from the rupees 10,000 paid to them by the government as interim relief. They were thankful to God for the compensation they had received.
The Catholic Church, that accounted for nearly 2/3 of 120,000 Christians in Kandhamal, decided that rebuilding houses would be the priority ahead of repairing damaged churches. This evoked dissent from unexpected quarters.
I accompanied Archbishop Raphael Chinath when he made a pastoral visit to Pobungia's devastated St. Peter's Church in July 2010. The faithful were not enthused as he came out from the burned church, used as godown to store cement, iron bars and asbestos sheets to build destroyed Christian houses. The peeved Christians told him,
It hurts us to see the church like a godown. Kindly repair the church first instead of rebuilding our houses. You should have houses first and be safe. We can build churches later. God will certainly hear your prayers even if the Mass is said in broken buildings or in the open air,
remarked Archbishop, smiling at the priests around him. God's own people.
Around the new year of 2012, new Archbishop John Barwa was making a pastoral visit to Kandhamal. At the reception according to him at Padangi Parish, the Tate diocese he had inherited was evident in the broken roof of the convent dispensary behind, as Christians garlanded him enthusiastically. I asked Archbishop Barwa about the challenges before him.
People of Kerala call it God's own country. But I would call my people God's own people for their amazing witness to Christ,
replied Archbishop Barwa, referring to the catchline of Tourism Department of Kerala for its natural beauty.
God's plans are beyond our comprehension. What happened here was very painful, but it is turning out to be a blessing,
said Archbishop Barwa, who had taken over the charge of the persecuted church in Kandhamal in April 2011.
Painful memories of dear ones have not dampened the faith of the Kandhamal Christians. The valiant Christians lived in forests, in refugee camps and slums, all the while keeping the flame of faith in Christ shining as lamppost on the rock.
Indeed, Kandhamal was not a tragedy. 14 years into the brutal persecution, children who carried dreadful memories of fleeing to jungle, living in refugee camps and slums, have not turned to despondent Christians. Dozens of them have joined seminaries, theological colleges, and convents to be workers in the vineyard of the Lord. Thanks to the brutal persecution, Kandhamal has turned out to be a vibrant vocation garden for the Indian Church.